So this is the third of the medical exam tutor presentations. In this one I'd like to talk a little bit about the challenges and some of the lessons learned in the development of the product. So as before, I have some conflicts of interest here, which you can read on the slide. So here are the topics I'm going to cover. I mean, actually this is really from my own perspective, so I think the marketing guy was pretty good and he knew about investors and writing a business plan. But perhaps for someone coming from academia, who's not really been in the real world, I suppose, these topics, these issues were not something that I'd thought about before. I hadn't been involved in developing a product for market before, so some of these things were quite challenging. And I wasn't the only one. The other doctors, researchers on the team also hadn't been involved in developing this kind of product before, so this was all quite new for us. So at the beginning of the build of the process, definitely the biggest challenge, the biggest frustration was the development of the software. So we found someone to develop the software for us who had a small company, and we had a vision for how we wanted it to look, but sometimes it was difficult for us to articulate this vision to the software programmer to get him to understand and be able to build it. The other issue was sometimes we didn't necessarily always know what we wanted, but we knew what we didn't want. But he would have to build this. He'd have to build something for us to comment on, which, and I don't blame him. He didn't like working like that. He found it frustrating that we couldn't tell him exactly what we wanted, and sometimes we needed all this stuff changed, and it wouldn't be that easy to change. And then the other issue was, so he lived or worked about 150 miles away, so a lot of our meetings would be over the phone, and this was further compounded by the fact that we would talk to him, and then he would get someone else to do the build who was in another country. So he would have to take our vision, and then he would have his interpretation of it, and then he would deliver this to someone else who would build it. So all of this kind of passing of information led to enormous frustration, I think, on the part of him and the people that work for him, as well as for us. So what we learned was when we changed our program after the feasibility study, we took a lot more effort in really finding a company that we could work with. We chose a company that was local, that we could meet, that we could talk to, and we had regular face-to-face meetings, not just with some representative from the company, but actually with the people who are writing the code and actually developing the software. I think we learned as well, we were better at articulating what we wanted the programmer to do, and we weren't changing our minds so much, so we kind of moved on a bit, so we had a clearer idea of what we wanted anyway. And because if you are changing your mind, just like I suppose, if you change your mind when you're building a house, this is costly, this takes time, so if you can have a good idea about what you want, then this isn't such a big issue. If you're developing a commercial product, so you also need investors. In this case, we have private investors, and we also applied for government, kind of matching money from government grants. But these guys are key, and the challenge for a medical exam tutor is that it's going to take time before the product is likely to turn any profit at all, and it's pretty expensive even to get it to this point. Is an awful lot of money, more money than I would have thought was required to do this. So you've got to be able to find investors, funders, who really believe in the product, and they're not looking for a quick return on investment. They're willing to sit and allow you to work it, to get it going, reach that tipping point where it's really being sold. So they can't. There's no instant money here. I realize. So in order to get money from investors, from funders, you obviously have to write a business plan, which I have little experience of doing. So I've written applications for grants, I've written scientific papers, but a business plan is a bit different. You really have to try and sell the product, and you have to be able to make a case. Not only they have to get the vision of what the product is, they have to understand what you're trying to sell them, but they also have to see how the products can actually make money. So this type of writing is different from scientific papers, from grant proposals. And the accountant and the marketing guy that we had on the team were invaluable in this, because they knew how to do this type of writing, and they could guide us. they wouldn't let us put in all of the references to all of the research. So they could guide us about what needs to be done. So definitely the lesson learned from this is you need to have people who have expertise in writing business plans if you're going to successfully get any funding for your great idea. So there's also a need for an income stream as basically as soon as you can. You want some money coming into the company to fund the development, but also to demonstrate to other potential investors that there are people willing to pay for this type of product. And we found this challenging. And part of the issue was sometimes we thought we needed more content, or the product itself needed to be more polished before we wanted to sell it to them. We didn't know if it was ready for selling. But the accountant, and I think he was right, recognized that you got to have some income coming in as soon as possible in order to have some money coming in that you can spend and build more and improve the product. So the whole thing is a costly process in terms of time and in terms of money. So this is a breakdown of how long it takes to develop one of our loan cases, and you can see it's a considerable amount of time. And if you assume that of $150 an hour, because I mean most of this is you're having to pay people who are experts in medicine to be able to develop this case. You can see it's about $13,000 per case roughly if you're charging the time at $150 an hour, and we have 70 cases. That's $900,000. So it's a costly business. I guess once you have it, you have it, but it's going to take a while to recoup those costs in terms of sales. And in terms of sales, one of the things is obviously marketing. You can have the best product in the world, but if nobody knows about it, then you're not going to make any money from it. And this was something that really I'd largely underestimated. I'd never done anything like this before, so I didn't realize that the need for a real clear and concise marketing plan. And from a little bit of our market research with medical students, it seems they work quite heavily on word of mouth and sort of swapping good information. And given that our goal is an international market, we needed a strong online strategy, because this is an online product, for how we were going to reach our potential customers. And our hope is that we reach some kind of tipping point. So I don't know, well that's my hope anyway. So once there's a certain number of students or a certain number of medical schools are using the product, that will help encourage others. But I guess it's getting to that tipping point is a tricky bit. And where is it? And I don't know. I don't think we're there yet. But I keep hoping that it's going to tip at some point in the near future. But yeah, marketing is crucial. Even if it's a brilliant product, you've got to sell it so that people will buy it, and you won't lose all of your investment and all of the time that's been put into it. So the market for medical exam tutors is basically English-speaking medical students in the final year, and there's actually a surprisingly large number of English-speaking medical students, not just in English-speaking countries, but for example in Eastern Europe there's a large number of English-speaking medical schools. So we do see our market as about 200,000 students every year, but it's again reaching this and delivering a product that will work in India as well as Eastern Europe, North America and the UK. And that, up until recently, our focus had been on the Eastern European market, but we're now trying to branch out and take in students from other countries as well. So like apps and other online materials, we recognize we have to continue improving what's there already. We've got to improve in terms of the site, and we've got to be adding cases. And some of our competitors, that you can see the issue is they haven't been continually being improved. There's not new cases being added, and so they kind of stagnate. And we want to avoid that. But of course, again, that means you've got to continually adding. You've got to be paying money to develop your site, and you can't just keep reinvesting any money you can, so that the product is getting better and getting bigger. So to conclude, we really believe in this product. I suppose if we didn't, we wouldn't be taking the time required to develop it. Particularly Dara spends many hours, she's up all night developing and adding to medical exam tutor. So there's a real belief that this is something that is useful. Do we need to carry out a proper trial of effectiveness? I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much with my academic hat on, and maybe that's not something that is done in a commercial world per se. Maybe you don't need scientific, irrefutable evidence that the product works. I don't know. I'm kind of uncomfortable. I sort of think that we do, but I have a big conflict of interest, so someone else would have to do that evaluation. So having gone through the process, I can see now how we could have been more efficient in the early stages of the development. There are times that we could have, knowing now what we know, I think we could have done things a little bit differently. But then again, maybe you need these are the hard lessons that you need in order to end up with a product that works at the end. So maybe the journey just is necessary, even if it's not an easy one. So again, if you want to look at it, if you want to get a free trial so you can look at the long cases, you can try them out, you can go to the website and all the information is there. Thank you very much.